You know that sinking feeling when you scroll through your feed and see some 25-year-old influencer flexing their seven-figure portfolio while you are sitting there wondering if you have already missed the boat? Well, I have some news that is going to completely flip that script. Your 40s aren't the decade where your financial dreams go to die. They are actually the decade where they finally wake up and get to work. My name is Dave, and I spend way too much time obsessing over the mathematics of wealth and the psychology behind why some people crack the code while others stay stuck. If you have hit the big 4-0 and feel like you are lagging behind, or if you are convinced the golden opportunities have vanished, smash that subscribe button and hit the like. Today, I am going to prove to you with cold, hard data that your 40s are actually your wealth building sweet spot. Here's the secret nobody tells you about aging and money. While the world obsesses over starting early and compound interest charts that make fresh graduates look like geniuses, they are missing the forest for the trees. Sure, time matters, but so does firepower. And guess what? Your ability to generate serious cash doesn't peak when you are young and broke. It peaks when you are experienced and valuable. Let's kick this off with a shocker. Your brain, that supercomputer between your ears, doesn't actually hit its prime until your 40s. I know, some mornings you wake up feeling like your back is held together by hope and ibuprofen, but we aren't talking about your ability to run a marathon without pulling a hamstring. We are talking about cognitive horsepower. Research from top universities like Harvard and MIT indicates that while raw processing speed might peak in your 20s, your ability to synthesize complex patterns and make strategic calls is just warming up. Think about it. A 20-year-old has the energy to pull all-nighters, but they are also the person likely to bet their rent money on a meme coin because a cartoon dog told them to. You, on the other hand, possess something they lack: pattern recognition. You have lived through enough cycles to know that what rockets up usually crashes down. You understand that boring often defeats exciting in the long game. And crucially, you have made enough mistakes to know where the landmines are buried. This isn't just feel-good theory. The data is loud and clear. Studies published in major business journals show that professional peak performance in knowledge-based careers typically happens between ages 40 and 55. That is no accident. It is the convergence of energy and experience. Take Sam Walton. The guy had a solid but average career managing retail shops through his 20s and 30s. Nothing that screamed future billionaire, but at age 44, he opened the first Walmart. Not exactly the age society tells us to start a revolution. Yet, by the time he passed, he had built a dynasty that is now worth hundreds of billions. Or consider that the average age of Nobel Prize winners when they perform their prize-winning research is 40. These aren't people who peaked early and coasted. These are people who spent decades building the toolkit necessary to solve the hardest problems. But mental peak is just the appetizer. Your 40s are also your peak earning years, and this is where the math of wealth gets spicy. According to federal labor statistics, median earnings hit their ceiling between ages 45 and 54. But wait, it gets better. That is just the average. When you look at high performers, the gap widens significantly. Data from salary researchers shows that college-educated professionals see their income climb steadily through their 40s, often peaking around age 50 to 52. We are talking about 30% to 50% jumps from their 30s baseline. Surgeons, executives, and senior engineers often don't see their biggest paychecks until they are well into their 40s. This isn't just about the numbers on the paycheck, though. It is about leverage. By your 40s, if you have been paying attention, you have built career capital. You have rare skills. You have a track record. You know how to navigate office politics and close deals. You have a reputation. All of this gives you negotiating power that a 20-year-old simply cannot possess. When a kid asks for a raise, they are hoping for charity. When a 40-year-old asks for a raise, they are trading on 2 decades of proven value. Now, I can hear the cynics in the back. But Dave, what about compound interest? Didn't I miss the magic window? This is where we need to destroy one of the biggest myths in finance, the idea that if you didn't invest at 22, you are doomed. Let me show you why the math disagrees. Let's run a simulation. Our early bird starts at 25, investing $500 a month for 40 years at 7%. They end up with roughly $1.3 million. Not bad. This is why gurus love this example. But now look at our late bloomer who starts at 40. Here is the difference. Because they are in their prime earning years, they can afford to invest $1,500 a month. They do this for 25 years at the same 7%. The result? $1.2 million. They get almost the exact same result with 15 fewer years of waiting. And that $1,500 is totally realistic for a mid-career professional. It isn't a fantasy number requiring you to starve. It is what happens when peak earnings meet disciplined spending. But let's push the throttle. What if our 40-year-old can save $2,500 a month? That is achievable for someone crushing it in their prime. At that rate, for 25 years, they hit $2 million. They have blown past the early bird by a mile, proving that compound interest doesn't care about your age. It cares about the size of your shovel. This is the secret nobody whispers when they are shaming you for not starting sooner. Warren Buffett, the patron saint of investing, didn't become a billionaire until he was 56. Let that marinate. The most famous investor ever didn't hit the 3 Comma Club until well past his 40s. In fact, 99% of his wealth came after his 50th birthday. If that doesn't shatter your excuses, nothing will. Here is what is really happening in your 40s that makes this decade so potent. You have developed something priceless, financial wisdom. And I don't mean book smarts. I mean the battle scars from making real mistakes. You remember buying that timeshare because you wanted free tickets? Yeah, you aren't falling for that again. You have developed a radar for nonsense. You know that guaranteed returns usually means Ponzi scheme. You have street smarts for money. This wisdom pays dividends. You are less likely to panic sell when the market throws a tantrum. You have survived recessions. You know they end. You know crashes are actually sales. You aren't the nervous wreck refreshing the app every hour. But it isn't just about avoiding blunders. Your 40s are when you start making genuinely brilliant moves. You understand the true cost of debt. You know the difference between borrowing for a rental property versus borrowing for a jet ski. You have figured out that credit cards are tools, not free money. Look at Julia Child. She spent years wandering through government jobs, totally lost. It wasn't until her mid-30s that she even found cooking. But she didn't rush. She spent years mastering the craft. She didn't publish her famous cookbook until she was 49. An age when society says women are invisible. That book launched an empire. Or look at Vera Wang. She was a fashion editor for 17 years. When she got passed over for a promotion, she didn't retire. At 40, she pivoted to become a designer. She used every ounce of her experience to build a bridal empire. Both women understood that success isn't about speed, it is about substance. Here is another massive advantage you have now: clarity. By 40, you have tried enough things to know what you hate. You know what drains you and what fuels you. You know who you want to be around. This clarity is a superpower because it lets you focus your resources. You aren't spraying bullets hoping to hit a target. You are a sniper. When you were young, you swing at everything. Crypto, penny stocks, your cousin's app idea. You want a home run. By 40, you know that wealth is built on base hits. You also have a better grip on risk. This doesn't mean you hide your money under a mattress. It means you understand the difference between intelligent risk and gambling. You know diversification isn't just a buzzword, it is a shield. You have also learned patience, real patience. You know compound interest takes time. You can plant seeds today knowing the harvest is years away, and you are okay with that. This patience stops you from chasing get-rich-quick schemes because you have seen them implode. You were looking for get-rich slowly and surely. Research backs this up. Studies show 40-year-olds make significantly better financial choices than younger peers. They carry less bad debt. They have emergency funds. They know the difference between a want and a need. This translates to something shocking. Your 40s are when you finally stop sabotaging yourself. You know a shiny car is a liability, not an asset. You know your house is a home, not a retirement plan. But here is the clincher, the thing that separates the wealthy from the wishful. By your 40s, you have a financial immune system. You have been exposed to enough viruses to build resistance. You don't get FOMO when a neighbor brags about a stock tip. You don't panic when the news screams doom. This immunity saves you from the catastrophic errors that wipe people out. And speaking of errors, here is the hidden perk of starting late. You skip the stupid phase. When you start at 20, you spend a decade making mistakes. You buy high, sell low, and chase trends. By the time you learn, you are 35 anyway. Starting at 40 means you skip the tuition fees of failure and go straight to the strategy that works. You can implement a boring, effective plan from day one because you are finally mature enough to appreciate boring. Here is the final advantage. You can ignore the noise. The financial world is loud. Every day, a new guru predicts a crash or a moonshot. When you are young, you listen. You switch lanes constantly. By 40, you know that more information often leads to bad decisions. You know the best strategy is usually the simplest one, and the best time to change it is never. Consistency is the most powerful force in money, and you finally have the discipline to harness it. Look, if you are sitting there thinking you missed the train, you are spectacularly wrong. You haven't missed anything. You just arrived at the station as the express train pulled up. You have peak earnings, battle-tested wisdom, laser focus, and enough time to let the math work. While everyone else panics about starting late, you can quietly build the kind of wealth that would make your 20-year-old self jealous. Your best financial decade isn't in the rearview mirror, it is right in front of you. So stop scrolling, stop comparing yourself to kids with crypto, and start acting like the powerhouse you are. If this changed your perspective on aging and money, smash that subscribe button. This is Dave Invest, and I'll see you in the next one.